and I think one of the things people have is like the fear of actually getting it, like their book and writing a book and how much time it takes. Is there actually, like, obviously you've mentioned a lot of pros. Are there also cons to it too? Or do you think it's just all cons?
If you cons to writing a book, if you hate writing, then writing a book is not for you. Unless you're going to hire somebody. I have a colleague that I work with all the time who co-writes books for people. So you would share your story maybe in this way, verbally, and then she would put an outline together and then she would craft it and you would just kind of review it and approve it. Of course, that is going to come with a higher investment. If you enjoy the process of writing and I can get you to a place where I know you know what you're going to write and you have an outline for, like, let's say 10 things you're going to write about in this nonfiction book, then it just becomes a matter of showing up for yourself and writing. And one thing I like to instill for people so they remove some of the fear that comes along with writing a book is that your book does not have to be 100,000 words. It doesn't have to even be 80,000 or 50,000 words. It could literally be 15,000, 20,000. And if you break that down by chapter, you're looking at, potentially 2,000 to 3,000 words per chapter. It does not have to be as massive. It does not have to be a book that's 500 pages long, as long as it serves a purpose. And to be honest, the way that humans are now and how our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, I'd actually encourage you, and I do, to write a shorter, concise, straightforward book. If you want to expand later, you could write a second book and then you'd have two. And then if you want to write more, write a third book, because people want the quick wins. They want the satisfaction of finishing the book and actually learning from it what they came to learn about it. If you try to write a book that encompasses everything you've ever learned in your career and your life, it's just going to be a higher chance that people don't finish it. And I want them to finish it, get to the end, feel like they took something away from it and rave about it because they loved what you said. And they had this feeling like they learned something in the book. They accomplished something by reading it. So don't let the length stress you out. Try to get as clear as possible with the message, the outcomes, the results that you're hoping this reader is going to get. And then structure it like, how do I want to put this? How am I going to organize it? If it's a book on manifestation, because you're a manifestation coach, obviously, the first thing that you're going to put in there is like, what even is manifestation? Like, you have to start at the beginning and be logical about it and then share what you know, embed the stories and the purpose behind what you're doing. But it doesn't have to be a huge project. But you do have to be a person who likes writing, because otherwise the process will suck and you just probably will never do it. Just keep pushing it off.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting too that you mentioned is like you have to be really, really interested in writing. It's like almost like, because I know you're a mother, it's like you have to, for you to have a kid, you have to actually want the kid. You know what I mean? Like you actually have to want to actually do.
And it's a lot of work, as is having a child.
I would assume so, so it's like, some people are like, oh, but I'm a mom and I have like, 2 kids and I don't know if I don't have time to write a book. And it's like, how do people write books like with your time? Because I'm actually kind of curious, where did you find the time to do it?
So it's interesting with the first book that I had, both books, obviously I was a parent at the time. The first book took me about 4 years to write, the Confident AF book. I started it. I didn't have a very clear plan. Like I said, at the time I was brand new. I wasn't running a publishing company. I wasn't thinking big picture about the book. So I just kind of wrote them almost like blog posts, because I had a blog too. That's kind of where I started with my platform. Kind of like blog posts, tips about confidence, just things that I've experienced, suggestions, about confidence building and how you can, learn to love yourself more.
Yeah.
And that one took me a while because I started it, I got momentum, and then I lost momentum, and then just kind of sat on my desktop collecting virtual dust for like almost 4 years. And then I went to a conference in San Diego in 2019. And that conference was like the catalyst that inspired me to be like, oh my gosh, I know exactly how I need to finish this book. And so the 5-hour flight home, I pretty much wrote the second half of the book on that 5 hours when I had no internet and nothing else to do but sit there and type. So motivation can come in different bursts. It's obviously not a strategy I would suggest to people. Like, start it and then wait 4 years and then on a plane ride, write the rest of it in 5 hours. Like, perfect. That's not what I would suggest to anyone. But what I would say is you need to lean into like your productivity style, your energy type. I don't know how spiritual this show is, but there are things like Gene Keys and human design and all of those things that for me, I know, in experience, play a role for me. I'm in human design. I'm a projector. That means I don't have hours and hours long of energy that I can be doing things all day long. I have to be very strategic about where I'm placing my time.
Right.
So for me, it was on a weekly basis. I needed to go somewhere when I was, during the good period of time where I know I'm most productive, and you have to learn these things about yourself. Go to a coffee shop with the only intention of sitting there and working on my book for those 1 to 2 hours every week. And then that helped me to create the habit. Because if you can create the habit, even if I wasn't writing, 10,000 words each time I sat down, but I was sitting there writing a few sentences, at least I'm creating the habit of writing. And that's more important than how much writing you get done during the time that you're writing.
Yeah.
So for you, if you're an entrepreneur and a busy mom, you might have to get up half an hour earlier and do your writing then, and then start your day, or stay up a little bit later once the kids are down and, put that half an hour in on an evening, on a weekly basis, at least a few times a week. But it really depends on your schedule, your productivity, how you work best. And motivation will be there some days and it won't on other days, but you have to just create the habit. That's the most important part.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't. Honestly, I think I'm going to write a book about how moms are amazing and we underestimate them.
We got a lot up here. There's a lot going on in the brain at all times.